Inclusion. You include everybody who wants to follow. Well, it depends on what facet of leadership. If you're talking about political leadership, leadership as the president of a university, leading a class, leading a church congregation, leading your family as a mom, I think that that helps you define what's the biggest challenges. My dad always used to say that he couldn't control much outside of his own driveway. And so my biggest leadership challenge was just to prepare my own children to be responsible and productive and caring citizens. But once again, we're working from my definition. So I'm a very grassroots person. And so I don't ever envision myself leading a community or leading a cause or leading a university for that matter. But what I did within the confines of my own driveway and leading my family, if I could look myself in the mirror over any decisions I made, then I felt like I was doing the right thing in leading my family. Yesterday, there was a student in my office who was telling me about her life, an aspect of her life, and I was really inspired by what she said. So it doesn't have to be somebody who's seeking political office. It doesn't have to be somebody that is necessarily in charge of mega millions. I'm inspired by the things that my students do, how they balance work and school and giving back to their community, and I'm inspired that they make the time to make a difference. That to me is a form of inspiration.
Thank you.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Why is that?
You know, she was, I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little on the tacky side, but she was one of the homeliest looking women I'd ever seen in a photograph. I don't know her personally, but she was so conscientious about people and their feelings and the desire to make a difference in the small way that she could, that I was really inspired by her. Well, not by my definition, because first of all, I've said that leadership is inclusion, and we both know he'd include everybody. And I think when you do something that's so harmful, I don't think that a person who leads is inclined to do things that hurt others intentionally. Well, it depends what she's leading. I mean, she obviously is a leader in the sense of that she has that celebrity that gives her a bully pulpit by which to push fashion or push an agenda. So if that is part of the variable that makes her a leader for her business, for her industry that she does, then sure. Do I think she's a leader in the sense of a community movement or a cause? Not necessarily, but it just depends on what we're asking her to lead about. And in many respects, she's leading in her fashion industry, in her business. So if you quantify it with money, then she's pretty much a leader, if that's what you're using as the variable. My parents were Marines, and they were very task-oriented, get the job done. And so I think that probably when my father's father died when I was 14, and I remember him saying, as difficult as it was, he said, you should never miss an opportunity to tell people or be there for people when they need you. That anybody could go to a wedding or an event that was happy, and to be there for someone when they were needed was more important. And for the first time, I could actually see that my parents put aside the tasks, because they were always very task-oriented. We need to get this done at this time, and this needs to happen, and they were very regimented that way. But watching my father stop what he was doing and say, we must come together for the funeral, and this is what's going to happen, and for him to really put the emphasis on being there for people when they needed you. That's really stuck in my head. If the choice you're about to make is going to embarrass you later on, or if you think that this is going to embarrass you, that it's something you shouldn't do. Oh, mine's clearly relationships. This is really, really big. And so my dad always said, go big or go home. If I could, right now I'm greatly bothered by the recent Paris attacks. I was very bothered by 9/11. I was very bothered by the news that I see of people running from their home countries and crossing borders. And if I could wave that magic wand, I'd get the whole fanaticism of religion and political ineptness wiped away. I think I bring a sense of enthusiasm and an ability to paint the picture that if we're doing this, it's got purpose and cause, and to demonstrate that it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Convention and Visitors Bureau, under the leadership of Richard Scharf. I really like the progressiveness. I really like that they're out there competing in worlds where they were told they couldn't compete. You know, Denver wasn't always a city that was seen as a first-tier gateway convention city, and Richard Scharf and his team have made that difference. There's one newscaster that I really like, and that's Charlie Rose. And I think he does a fantastic job of bringing the issues to the forefront without being rude or offensive. To elongate what could be done in a day, or to make the day such that you could get more out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Desire to make a difference. None. I don't think there's a book. I think it's just a quality, and I'm not quite sure that a book will teach the quality. A book will give you a lot of the variables. A book will give you a lot of information of what some people think a leadership is, but there isn't a particular book. There isn't to me. Both. Rules are designed for our reason. I mean, we have to have the rule of law, because at some point we have to be definitive. You know, the rules of law, you know, not to kill somebody. That's a rule of law. But sometimes when we are passionate about an issue, sometimes we have to forge ahead and just do it. And I think of people like Rosa Parks. The rule was she was supposed to give up her seat on the bus, but it wasn't right. And I think that many times you have to break the rules to demonstrate that something's not right. I think if it goes against my core belief, it's going to sound a little selfish, but faculty members are evaluated on their teaching and that teaching rating they get. And faculty members are evaluated on their research and their publications. And faculty members are evaluated on the service that they give at their university and in their department and in their college and in their community. But the one thing that we're not rated on, or that we aren't valued, as I see, that the value isn't placed on there because there isn't a category for it, is advising. And if I could change that, I would make it so that we all could be the best kind of advisors we could be, because we're on the if you will, excuse the expression, we're on the battlefield with the student, not doing battle with the student, but battling to make sure that there is a transfer of knowledge and that they're getting the most from their education that they can, and they're taking advantages of all of the services that are available in a university. And yet the university doesn't place a value on the advising because there's no section in our portfolio development that you can actually put a quantifiable number on the number of people you advise, what you're talking about, the amount of training you go through to be a good advisor. And that would be on a grassroots level, because I believe so strongly in the student that would be the one thing I would want to change, that how we are evaluated and why isn't advising given the same credence that scholarly research is given, because that advising is key to many times to the success of a student. When I'm sitting at my round table advising, giving student choices to make them aware of things that they didn't know existed, to broaden their horizons. I think for many students that come into my office, their goals are like nailing Jell-O to a wall. They're non-existent. And sometimes I take the most pleasure of just giving as many ideas as I possibly can, and to always think, go big or go home.